Okay, this last example, we're given nothing but the diagram and what we're supposed to prove. Okay? So we are given that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 and segment RV is parallel to segment TS. So I'm going to mark my diagram first. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2 and segment RV is parallel to segment TS. And we want to prove that RS is congruent to segment TV. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight those. That's what we want to prove. All right, so now we're going to take this from scratch. The first thing you're going to do is write down what you're given. So angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Segment RV is parallel to segment TS. And our reason is given. Okay? So let's look at our diagram. Somehow we need to get these two to be parallel. We can either show that 2 and 3 are congruent because then we have alternate interior angles. We could show that angle 4 is congruent to angle, no, they're automatically. So that's what we're looking for, is these have to be congruent. We can show that 2 and 3 are congruent, then these two lines are parallel. Okay? So let's start with what we can get off of this diagram. RV is parallel to ST. So that means angle 4 is congruent to angle 3. Why? Because they're corresponding angles. So angle 4 is congruent to angle 3. Corresponding angles. Okay? Now, notice that angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical angles. And what do we know about vertical angles? They are congruent. So angle 4 is congruent to angle 1 because they are vertical angles. Okay? So I'm going to change this now to a double arc. All right? But if I change this to a double arc, because angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent, I can put this as a double arc. But I can't just automatically say that these two are congruent. I need to tie 1 somehow with 3. Okay? So I have 4 and 1 vertical angles. Okay? Now, if 4 is congruent to 3 and 4 is congruent to 1, then notice angle 1 is congruent to angle 3 via the transitive property. Okay? So now I can, because 1 is congruent to 3 and 1 is congruent to 2, I can now connect angle 2 and angle 3. Angle 2 is connected to angle 3. And this is going to be, again, substitution, or you could say transitive property. All right, so now we've confirmed 2 is congruent to 3. That now allows us to say that segment RS is parallel to segment TV. Sorry. Yep. And that is by alternate interior angles. And your proof here is finished. there's a couple of takeaways I want you to know is that there is not one correct proof. In other words, the way I have this laid out is not necessarily the only way to lay this out. Okay? And that is one of the frustrating things with your proofs. So as long as your steps are logically in order and you support it with your reasons, you should have a solid proof.